Bearcat Blitz. How we doing, everybody? Welcome into a mid-July edition of the show right here on the Believe Network. I'm your host, Russ Heltman, joined by my co-host, Neil Meyer of thefrontofficenews.com. You can check out all their Cincinnati Bearcats coverage there, and you can check out my Cincinnati Bearcats coverage on Cincinnati Bearcats on SI. Just look up si.com/Cincinnati. A few things to touch on today. A couple of Bearcats drafted to Major League Baseball teams over the weekend. We had the first commitment in the class of 2027 for Cincinnati Bearcats football. Simas Lukosius has a new professional basketball home. We'll touch on all that to start the show, and we'll close it out with a look at the S&P Plus rankings from ESPN's Bill Connolly, which has a very tightly projected finish in the Big 12, a finish that S&P Plus sees Cincinnati finishing all the way at the bottom of in 2025. We'll assess those rankings to close out the show on this week's Bearcat Blitz. All that coming up in just a few moments. Stick with us through these commercial messages. We'll have the full show ready for you right after. Bearcat Blitz starting up today's show. Neil, a couple of Bearcats drafted to Major League Baseball teams.
Yeah, it was a big weekend for Jordan Bischel and the Bearcats baseball program. Obviously, you see two Bearcats go within the top 10 rounds of the 2025 MLB draft. And obviously, you see Landon Vitterick go in the third round with pick 104 to the Los Angeles Dodgers. And then you see Carrington Cross, Big 12 Player of the Year, go in the seventh round with the 220th pick to the San Diego Padres. The two Bearcats heading out to California. And Russ, for Carrington Cross, his career was so unique, right? Because he gets told he was going to have to redshirt his freshman season. Then the former coaching staff says, "Hey, you're not going to play your redshirt freshman season, so you're not going to travel." And then he comes in and puts up a career where he etches his name into Cincinnati history with the likes of Josh Harrison, Kevin Youkilis, and a couple others there as well. He finished the 2025 season where he hit 396, 12 home runs, 50 RBIs, 65 runs scored, 50 walks on the season, where he was top 20 in all of college baseball in terms of on-base percentage and 20th in the nation in batting average. So overall, a huge career for Carrington Cross. He finishes his Bearcat career, Russ, third all-time in school history in runs scored, fourth in hits, fourth in home runs, fourth in triples, fifth in RBIs, and third in total bases, third in walks, and fifth in stolen bases within his 219 games played as a Bearcat, which is eight all time in the program of Cincinnati. So overall, Russ, it wouldn't be shocked to see the number two potentially retired there in the upcoming years for Cincinnati. And then for Carrington Cross, at least, it's a great storybook ending for his career. And then junior Landon Vitterick was selected in the third round, which is the highest draft pick from Cincinnati since Ian Happ back in the 2015 MLB draft. So overall, that is a huge honor for the Cincinnati native and Landon Vitterick. So he had a big season, 14 home runs. He was 14 home runs this past season, 43 RBIs, 39 stolen bases, 56 runs scored, 10 doubles, 43 walks. 39 stolen bases, led the Big 12 Conference, and was tied for 13th nationally, which is the third most stolen bases in a single season for Cincinnati Bearcats. So overall, see Landon Vitterick going in the third round was huge after he wowed a lot of people at the MLB Combine. So overall, a big weekend for Jordan Bischel and the Bearcats. And safe to say, Russ, maybe this time next year we might see a couple more of these guys go within the first 10 rounds with the trajectory that Jordan Bischel has his baseball program heading.
Great stuff for UC baseball and great stuff for Simas Lukosius, Neil, as he lands with a new professional spot in his old hometown country. From Kaunas, Lithuania, he's headed back to Lithuania to play for BC Raitas in the Lithuanian LKL League. 68 appearances for Cincinnati across his 2023 and 2024-2025 seasons in the Big 12 Bearcat ranks. A fun player, Neil, a great guy with the media. We love talking with CMOS. I'm wishing him all the best in his professional ventures. Maybe one day he can get back stateside, get in the G League, or get into an NBA look down the line. But a good start in Europe for CMOS, and hopefully he has a long professional career one of my favorite Bearcats to cover. Always open with us. He was a guy that always took it on the chin well after a loss. He spoke for the team and the player side of things a lot of times after the Bearcats came up short as just a great symbol of leadership and a great guy in the locker room. Simas Lukosius will be missed this fall and beyond on the Bearcats basketball court, but fans can keep up with them on the EuroLeague side of things, especially in the LKL. Good stuff for Simas Neil landing a professional home back in his own home country. I'm sure he's excited to get back home and be around some old family and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge honor for Simas Lukosius, especially having the opportunity to kind of jumpstart your pro career back home in your home country in Lithuania after being away for what, nearly 5 years, roughly
Right.
throughout his college career. So it's a great opportunity for Simas Lukosius to head back home. Obviously, a lot of people know who followed his career know that his father is actually a coach over in the Lithuania basketball industry. So it's cool to see him kind of have that full circle moment and have that opportunity to go back home. But like you mentioned, you would like to see him maybe have a good 1 or 2 years over there and find his way back into conversations within the G League or potentially NBA. So overall, like you mentioned, Russ, he was a standout here at Cincinnati, and he was always one of those guys where he was going to give it to you clearly and thoroughly, despite after a team's loss. He was going to be honest with you. He was always made available. And we really appreciate Simas Lukosius for allowing us to be part of his story and
Yeah.
welcoming us into the Bearcat program. I know we had a lot of good moments with him. We had a lot of good jokes too. I know Big 12 Media Days 2 years ago in Kansas, or last year in Kansas, was a good time with him. We had a lot of good jokes. We cracked a lot of good jokes out there in Kansas City. So overall, you're going to miss a guy like Simas Lukosius, who is a veteran presence and a veteran leader within this locker room. But it's very cool to see him join some former teammates in the professional basketball realms overseas, joining the likes of John Newman and Odi Aguama as well. But it was really cool, Russ, to see all the former teammates give that kind of love when the news came out that he was heading back home overseas.
Simas Lukosius starting his pro journey in Lithuania with BC Rightus. One more news and note figure to get to before we get to kind of a longer discussion on the S&P plus projections from ESPN's Bill Connolly for the Big 12 football slates starting up in about 5 weeks, essentially 6 weeks from the start of the season in Kansas City with Nebraska versus Cincinnati football. A football commitment, Neil, in the class of 2027, the first commit in the class for Cincinnati. They get a local commitment from Northwest junior safety Hezekiah Kelly on Monday. I think I probably just destroyed his first name. I have no idea how to say it. That was my best shot right there. The junior, not ranked in the class of 2027. Neil, he holds four other offers, all MAC schools in Miami, Toledo, Kent State, and Eastern Michigan. 6'2", 190-pound local talent, picking Cincinnati after camping with the defense and Coach Tyson Veit throughout this summer at Nippert Stadium.
Yeah, it's great to see that Cincinnati is back here landing in-state prospects, Russ. I think that is huge to start off the 27 class, right? Everybody has been kind of looking in terms of recruiting, saying when is Cincinnati in this new staff going to dip into the local talent pool here in Cincinnati? Well, they're on the board already in the 2027 class, and Hezekiah Kelly announced his pledge to Cincinnati late last night. But it's huge, right? To land the in-state product from Northwest High School. He committed to UC on Monday after visiting Cincinnati in early June. He camped the first week of June where he picked up an offer from Cincinnati, and he even kind of posted a picture of him camping with a picture of him alongside uh, DC Tyson Veit. So overall, sounds like he's going to be committed as a nickel slash strong side linebacker. They offered him a scholarship on the first day of the kind of summer, the open live period for the 2027 class there after camping. So it's a huge start for Cincinnati, right? But 6'2", 190 to 200 pound frame for the strong safety out of Northwest High School. It's going to be interesting to see what this 2027 class might kind of turn into now that the first domino has fallen. But overall, Russ, you see he only has a couple max offers and then UC, but with the two strong seasons ahead of him, I think uh, Hezekiah Kelly could kind of draw and be a big time player for Cincinnati. And like you mentioned, you always want to keep the hometown products here within the city. So hence Cincinnati is back in the terms with landing their first hometown hero within the 2027 class.
That they are, Neil, and still just kind of seemingly locked into this avenue of recruiting. You see, I don't foresee them in the Scott Satterfield era, or maybe ever, being in the mix with a lot of 4-star players, Neil, or let alone 5-star guys. I mean, that hasn't happened. I don't think they brought in a 5-star talent in the 24/7 sports era this decade, to say the least. And then I believe Zion Johnson and Daniel James are the only two 4-star talents that have been committed to Cincinnati in the Scott Satterfield era, and they haven't had one in the 2025 class. So it's they did not have one in the 2025 class, and they have not had one in the 2026 class. Zion Johnson was a 4-star in the 2025 grouping. So it's going to be kind of maybe going for these kind of mid to lower tier 3-star talents, higher tier 3-star talents, especially those higher tier, mid tier guys in your local area. And then putting those major resources, especially monetarily, it seems like, into the transfer portal and trying to hit singles, doubles, triples, home runs on that side of the asset ledger, as opposed to going for the big home runs and allocating your money in what is a money allocation timeline we're moving forward into the high school ranks. So I think for people who are, I wouldn't expect them, people who are like, where are all the 4-stars, why isn't there a 5-star yet, why is, with all this investment, all this stuff happening, why is there not all this stuff happening on the recruiting side? I don't think they're focused on it. They're not focused on bringing in and allocating a lot of resources to these high level talents, because if they were, I mean, it would have happened by now. 18 commits in the class of 2026, none of them with a rating of 89 plus on 24/7 sports. So Cincinnati developing, recruiting through development, developing through the recruitment, and then they're going to throw those big bomb shots on the guys that have already proven something at the college level. That has been the strategy under Scott Satterfield and this talent acquisition team so far. We'll see if it continues in the near future, but all signs point to that being the case, unless a Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk for UC billionaire type of level money starts coming in. It's just the way things are in today's college sports landscape. Let's take a quick break here, Neil, and then we'll get to the projection for the current Bearcats football team from SP Plus, which has Cincinnati finishing last in its projections going into the 2025 season, and the only team projected in the Big 12 to have a negative SP Plus rating when things are all said and done. Neil, closing out the show with Bill Connolly of ESPN's Big 12 preview released late last week. 2025 projections have him ranking in order the Big 12 standings to go this way: Kansas State, Arizona State, Texas Tech, BYU, which even with the exit of Jake Retzloff, he still, Bill Connolly does, has BYU's ranking dropping, their projected win total dropping by like 0.3 to 0.5 wins. So not a whole lot of drop off from what Retzloff would have projected as in this system. So BYU, Texas Tech, Arizona State, Kansas State, the top four, and then TCU, Utah, Iowa State, Baylor, and Kansas make up the next group, followed by Colorado, West Virginia, Oklahoma State, Houston, Arizona, UCF, and all the way at the bottom, Cincinnati, projected to have the 86th best offense in the entire country, the 88th best special teams, which would be just one spot higher than they finished last season in S&P Plus rankings on special teams, and a much better defense, a top 50 defense with a 49th overall projection on that side of the ledger. Neil, I mean, as you can see, the bottom 8 teams are basically separated in S&P Plus by 3.3 total points. It's just Cincinnati gets the short end of the stick among those bottom 8, starting with Kansas, which is expected to have a clear gap between them at 3 overall S&P Plus to Baylor at 7.5 overall S&P Plus, and Kansas State obviously leading the pack with 15.6 projected SP Plus points for the entire season. This is one of the most respected analytics systems in the entire sport, Neil. What do you think about a last place finish projection from SP Plus?
Yeah, I don't know if I really agree with that statement, to say the least, because Russ, you look down at everything that transpired in the Big 12, and it was something we heard very frequently at Big 12 media days. That's why they went away with the preseason media poll, right? I mean, you look at what happened last year. Arizona State was projected to finish last in the conference. This season is kind of hard, even in college athletics nowadays. It's kind of hard to get a gauge on what teams and uh, coaches should really expect and media should expect in the world of the transfer portal. But looking down at this right now, I don't know if I really believe with it, because you look at Utah being in the middle of the pack, you see Baylor in the middle of the pack, Colorado, West Virginia, Oklahoma State. I mean, you look at some of those teams from a season ago. Oklahoma State went 0-9 in the conference. West Virginia's undergoing a complete rebuild, a head coaching change. UCF, I could kind of see them being right there at the bottom of it. Arizona as well. You lose a lot of star power there, but Cincinnati being ranked dead last, I don't know if I agree with that. However, I would expect to see them kind of shock some people and kind of finish near probably the middle of the pack in the SP Plus rankings by the end of the season. So it's going to be interesting to see how this really plays out. But looking at this right now, this 2025 projections, obviously your top two teams, your top three teams, arguably, I can kind of see Arizona State, Kansas State, Texas Tech, whatever order you might have them in the media polls, but or your polls, whatever people do nowadays since the media poll went away. However,
I
I
think
don't
it
believe.
literally went away in direct response to how wrong it was about Arizona State
Hey,
last
and I
year.
will be the first to say it on record that I had Arizona State 16th heading into last season.
And
I'll
you
be
know
the
who
first
else
to
had
say that.
Arizona State 16th heading into their projections last season, Neil? The exact analytic model we are talking about right now. Yes, Arizona State had a negative 6.2 SP plus projection last season. That would have sat them 88th nationally. And what did they do, Neil? They
Shock the
went and
world.
won the entire conference. So
Shock the world. So I don't know.
in
I
the
don't
Big
like this
12,
model.
in the Big 12, I'm with you. Any other conference, I would be very worried about this from a
Mhm.
Cincinnati evaluation
But
perspective.
the
But
Big
the Big
12
12
has
is
so
so
much parity.
unpredictable compared
So
to
much
the
parity.
SEC and Big 10.
Yeah, and this conference has so much parity, right? And I mean, you look at it a season ago, everybody count last season heading into the season, Russ, Dave Aranda was on the hot seat. I think everybody knew that. Baylor finishes the season with 6 wins, get to a bowl game. Dave Aranda's job is saved, and potentially now with another good season, looking at a contract extension. So I mean, you have that kind of aspect. You have Colorado losing Shadur, Travis Hunter, some great players there at Colorado. I don't expect them to be hunting for a bowl game or contending for a Big 12 title this year, unfortunately. But on top of it, Utah, I don't expect them to be playing for a Big 12 championship as well. But you never know within this conference. I mean, I caught up with Ollie Gordon, former Oklahoma State running back, down for a one-on-one. He even said it, this is the best conference, right? You look down, it's so much parity. And parity was the word that came out with every coach within all of the Big 12 throughout both days of media availability out in Frisco, Texas this past week. So overall, I don't know. The SP Plus rankings, I understand it. I see it. But right now, seeing Cincinnati with the negative zero point 0.3 SP plus. I don't know if I believe it, especially with how much firepower they're returning on offense. They upgraded at just about every position. Obviously, you still have your questions at offensive line. You have your questions on the defensive side still and what might happen there. But overall, you return 5 key guys. I don't believe Cincinnati should be at the bottom of this list, to say the least. So I don't know. We're gonna find out, right, Russ? It looks like they have the average wins on the season for Cincinnati in this projection at 5.3.
Yep.
That kind of shocks me as well, because you and I have talked about this schedule. We've broken it down multiple times. We believe Cincinnati could have a great opportunity to go bowling this year. So overall, I'm kind of curious to see what it might happen. But looking at this, I don't know how comfortable I feel with West Virginia being higher than Cincinnati, Oklahoma State being higher than Cincinnati, Houston, Arizona, UCF all being higher than Cincinnati in this terms of projections here with the SP Plus. I don't know how to feel about that, because I believe personally that Cincinnati is a better team than all four of those other schools that I just listed.
And the reason they have Cincinnati below that 6 win cut line is because of how they project this schedule to be a little bit more difficult than we do, Neil. Six top
Hmm.
35 SP plus projected opponents on Cincinnati's schedule. So that is why they are expected to take another leap in SP plus, finish higher this coming season. 66 is their projection in SP plus this coming season than they did last season, but still end up with the same amount of wins because they expect that number two increase in terms of difficult games in the 2025 season. Neil, it's just going to be about the one score games. Like we know Cincinnati was terrible on that front last year. I think they went what, like two, like
One
they
and
had
four.
1-4. Yeah, it was 1-4, 1-5, something like that in one score games. And guess what Arizona State did along with Iowa State in their one
Went
score games last year?
went to
11-3 between those two teams. Utah and Kansas last season. What did they go, Neil? One of the top two projected teams in the conference, 2-10 in one score games. How you execute in those tight moments is going to decide your entire fate in this conference. It's going to decide whether or not you're fighting for one bowl chance at the end of the season or you're fighting for a chance to go to the Big 12 championship game. It's probably going to be 3 or 4 plays that decide that fate for Cincinnati. And it's why this new practice facility, the continuity on both sides of the ball, especially the continuity in the coaching staff, all of that stuff. The fact that they, Neil, I believe, don't have to play any teams coming off of a bye week in the schedule this coming season, that's a major factor. So I think there's all these little things that would have you and I looking as close as we do on it a little bit more optimistic than this projection. But in the end, Neil, they still project Cincinnati to be a top 66 team nationally. It's just the depth in the Big 12 is so deep and it's so tight that they end up being the short end of the stick. And when you go through this entire exercise, this entire article by Connolly, there is not one team that is, quote, just looking for a path to 6-6. He has every single team in the Big 12 with a decent chance of making a bowl game. He says, quote, I reserve this category for teams with no more than a 35% chance of bowl eligibility. The Big 12 has no such teams. So when it comes down to winning time in those final moments, how together this team is, how locked in they are, how healthy they are, how fatigued they are, it's all going to factor into whether or not they're fighting for that 6th win in the final game of the season or whether or not they're fighting for a chance in the final 2 weeks to go to the Big 12 title game. It's just going to be that close, in my opinion. And I think you're right there. You're right there with me with what you just laid out with reaction to this projection. It's just they drew the shortest end of the stick in a conference that has plenty of well-tuned, well-worn sticks and guys that are and teams that are just ready for the challenge. So, Neil, I think it's just we're going to see this as another opportunity, a bulletin board opportunity for the Bearcats. Like put this in the locker room, put this in the training facility. One of the most respected, I mean, honestly, S&P Plus, I don't know anybody in the college football coverage realm that respects an analytic metric more than S&P Plus. The top analytic in the entire country thinks you're going to come in last place in the Big 12 in 2025. It's even more motivation for the Cincinnati Bearcats football team. And not that they're going to probably put it up on the bulletin board or anything like that. It's just for guys like us to talk about. But they know the noise, they know the chatter, and they know that they have plenty to prove this coming fall with a lot of guys that are hungry to prove it and starving to get back to bowl eligibility, as defensive line coach Walt Stewart said on his From the 513 appearance. Very good show right there from Cincinnati Bearcats Athletics. Check that out. Weekly, they drop that, and check us out as well. Subscribe to everything. Take in all of the Cincinnati Bearcats coverage in what is expected to be a really fun next 6 months on the calendar to close out 2025 season. Very close. We're a little less than a week away, basically a week away from the start of fall camp. We'll be here to cover all of it. Neil Meyer, Russ Seltman with you all in this week's Bearcat Blitzes and every week's Bearcat Blitzes. Enjoy your Tuesday, everybody, or whenever you're listening to this. We'll talk to you again later in the week.